The answer to your visibility problem is not, first and foremost, to get more visible. It's not to get busier. It's not to rush into creating more or doing more or sharing more. A lot of people will make that mistake when they are trying to get visible. They will get very, very busy trying to do all of the things that they can see on tick boxes and checklists and trend suggestions from influencers of what they should be doing in order to get more visible, and thereby bringing in more work, more income, bringing in more clients, raising brand awareness. A lot of people think that it's just to get busy in some way. And I would say a big fat no to that as the first and foremost answer. What I would like to suggest to you is that if you are in that kind of situation yourself at the moment, is that I want you to take a deep breath. Now, if you are a high-functioning, neurospicy, older woman or person who lives on the outer edges of convention, you're my kind of person. And for the most part, you are probably more likely to want to try and dig in and get busy, like ASAP, because we've been taught to do that. That's part of our status quo of how we keep ourselves moving forward and the momentum of things. And for a lot of people who work on the outer edges of society, who aren't the mainstream, typical, in business and in leadership, those that think outside the square, outside the box, and well and truly outside the box, a lot of the times getting busy is our way of dealing with a lot of the fight or flight stuff that happens and with our nervous system to try and make things happen, get in front of the right people, because we've had to, as a matter of survival, as a matter of actually pushing through the biases. But I would like to suggest to you that there is another way. And the one thing that a lot of people miss in business and entrepreneurship and leadership especially, and I see it with people who come to me after they've done a lot of that busy work. They come to me and then we start talking about slowing things down and getting really clear about your actual brand identity. Now, for a lot of my clients, the brand is your personal brand. So the question is, who are you? Who are you in all of your layers? And can you communicate that clearly? And for a lot of people, they can't. And I get it. I've had exactly the same situations for myself. I've gone through major upheavals in my life. And each single time I have attempted to push through and try and just get things done. And inevitably it doesn't work, because at the end of the day, I just couldn't connect with who I was anymore. I'd changed so much. I'd grown. I'd had to strip away parts of myself in order to survive whatever was coming at me. And I'm actually coming out of another realm of that at the moment and working out exactly who I am at the end of the day. And as a result, I'm getting a lot clearer about what it is that I want to talk about, what it is that I want to deliver. But before I got to this point, things were messy, man. Things were so messy. And they will be for you too. If you are like me and you're neurospicy and you're multi-potentialite, kind of person, and you have lots of different skill sets and ideas and interests that you have, and you've often been misunderstood by a lot of people or a lot of assumptions made about you. The thing is that we've had to morph and adapt and change, particularly Gen X women and women who are 40, 50 plus. We've had to morph and change with what everyone else wanted us to be and do. And then we get into business, and then we're like, wow, okay, I need to communicate who I really am. So all we then focus on is what we do. And that's great to be able to talk about what you do, but it's not going to distinguish you at all. I had a client a couple of months back who had actually been through major upheaval in her life, a lot of personal upheaval, and also that impacted her business and her leadership role that she was in. And it really shook her to the core. Like, she was still dealing with it when she was working with me. And she couldn't really get a sense of who she was anymore, who she was without X, Y, and Z that was there, 3-4 months beforehand, and now it was gone. And how could she communicate that to her staff and to her customers? And so we went through a series of activities during my strategy sessions that I do with a lot of my clients. And these strategy sessions are really custom made for each person. I really wish that I could have my own self mentoring myself. I really would love a person like me to mentor myself, but I unfortunately cannot do that. But I get to do this with other people, and it's because of my former psychology days that I can work with people on this stuff. And I do a lot of identity work with people. And we worked through, what was holding her back. What was the blind spots she could not even see? She could kind of sense some of them, but she couldn't quite see all of them, and how they were impacting her work and her ability to make money again in her work. And so we went through a series of activities in the studio, as well as a couple of follow-up sessions. And during those sessions, she found her gumption again. She found her sassiness. She found her spark and her fire. And she started to make different decisions. And she'd been pushing beforehand. Like, before she'd been working with me, she'd been pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to get things to line up and work. She was a smart cookie. She wasn't just kind of waiting for everything to happen for her. But for some reason, things weren't lining up, and I could see what was happening. And it was because she didn't quite know who she was anymore in her work, and thereby she couldn't communicate it to her ideal customer. Even her customer had slightly changed since we had done her original branding years ago. And so this work is super important. So if you're one of those kind of people who is going through major upheavals, or you're coming out of the other end of those kind of that kind of moment in your life, don't just get busy, please. Don't do it. Resist it if you can. Slow right down. Get some perspective. Get some perspective from an outside person if you can. As someone like myself who can actually mirror back to you what is going on for you, and really work through answering the question, who am I? Who am I? And if you can actually answer that, like with gumption and with fire and with sassiness and with surety and clarity, then you can start to get busy doing the work and bringing in that you want to bring in and manifest the most. So yeah, the question for you today is, who am I? Who am I in my business, with my customers, and who am I and who am I becoming?